As a board member, one of the most difficult issues is to find good directors on boards.
It is sometimes difficult, and we have to do all we can to ensure that we get the right mix of board members on our board.
From a historical perspective, many organizations have made deliberate effort to appoint women on boards and other senior executive positions. However, research shows that we have only scratched the surface and not fully harnessed the potential that women could bring to our boardrooms and therefore contribute to the overall development agenda.
We've been brought up to do things a certain way, to behave a certain way, to not be aggressive. If you're Muganda like me, you shouldn't be aggressive. You should be polite. And this really affects the way people look at us and our capacity and our capability. We find that women are not progressing up the ladder as fast as the men. They are not paid the same amount, even for the same job.
First and foremost, there's the response, the reproductive life responsibility. That is the motherhood responsibility. That comes into play, and I've found it playing against the women. You find that the woman she may be a rising star, but again, family comes in and they have to take care of that aspect. So you find that a number of women drop off. They climb, get to the middle management, and that's it. And you find that between the middle management and the top level, that is the C-suite and board, they become fewer because of that natural responsibility.
Companies must make sure that they create the environment where women can be comfortable, can equally contribute, and that they are not there because they are women, they are there because they bring the skills that the board needs. And we have to work on that. I mean, when people say, oh, but they will go on maternity leave. Excuse me, yes, they go on maternity leave, but the board doesn't sit every day. And these days, you do not even have to come to the board meeting in order to contribute. The new technology has enabled us to be able to sit and you contribute.
They, of course, will have families and they will have children. And this is often looked at very negatively by the employer and also by fellow workers who feel maybe you're not doing as much as you could do.
These boards are dominated by men, and actually even dominated by old men. Therefore, they get there as if they are minorities, and they will be seen as minorities. And when they give a view, somebody will see it as a woman's view and not a view of a board member. But you see, that will have to be overcome through education.
It becomes very difficult because unfortunately people may tend to dismiss their issues or not to listen to them the way they should.
There are some strong women, they actually do a lot of sacrifices. You depend on your spouse to support you, and if you don't have that support, chances are that again you will fall back. But in many of the instances where they've had the support, they've actually been very successful, but at the risk and the sacrifice of the family.
Research carried out by McKinsey shows that companies with a greater share of women on their board of directors and executive committees tend to perform better financially. African companies are no different. The report points to the fact that earnings before interest and taxes margin of those with at least a quarter share of women on their boards was on average 20% higher than the industry average.
Women are involved in a number of activities and have special interests, which men may not necessarily be aware of. When you are discussing issues in general, you need to sit back and listen to what different directors are saying. And clearly, as a chairman, you want to hear from as many diverse backgrounds as possible, because that will help you to form a consensus and come to understanding as to what needs to be done for the particular organization.
In its 2016 research comprising 55 leading companies based in Africa, interviews with 35 women leaders, and analysis of the financial performance of 210 publicly traded African companies, McKinsey & Company distilled the following realities. 5% of CEOs are women, 29% of senior managers are women, 36% of promotions go to women, and 44% of senior women hold line roles. In the private sector, Africa performs relatively well on the global stage, with a higher percentage than average of women executive committee members, CEOs, and board members as shown in Exhibit 1. In particular, Uganda's women directors' representation is still below that of its regional peers of Kenya and Tanzania, of 19.8% and 14.3% respectively, and the overall African regional average of 14%. Further, by the time of the survey, with 5 women directors on its 11-member board, East African breweries based in Kenya had the highest women director representation on the continent of 45.5%. However, this has since reduced to 27.2% at the moment. In Uganda, Stanbic Bank of Uganda, then considered having among the highest women director representation on the continent with 33.3%, has also since reduced to 22.2%.
And UBL has done fantastic on that. Even the bank among Stanbic Bank. Also, if you look at our EXCO, I think the majority of EXCO are women. It's got to be deliberate effort. They're out there, but it's a question of trying to get them and then create an environment for them to be able to perform. So
There's need for support of the women. There's need for deliberate action. And also, the women that have been successful should be able to also pull up the women that have potential.
Numerous initiatives have been taken to improve women representation on boards. On the global stage, some countries including Malaysia and the state of California have put in place relevant legislation stipulating quotas for women representation on board.
Following the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goal, goal number 5 is looking at parity. SDG 5. I am the ambassador for Uganda for SDG 5. So working with the UN, UNDP in particular, and our own private sector foundation, Uganda, we've come up with what is called the gender seal in order to achieve the 50%. What do you need to do? So women on boards, let's have training, let's look for them, let's build their capacity, they should be trained. Then we are looking for top management. This is a process. We don't expect any company to achieve that overnight, but we want to see progression, and you get certified at whatever level. So if you have women on the board, you tick that. If you have, the CEO is a woman, that's a very big tick.
First of all, identifying women in leadership. We train those women, and we hope that those women will then go out and look for other women and help them to guide them through the process, because usually leaders play a very important role, because leaders, they are role models, but they are also out to coach and mentor others.
If we have more role examples and also pulling up each other, there should be some growth in there, but deliberate actions need to be done, and deliberate actions towards bringing in women, not for the sake of having them on the board, but for them to deliver and give value.
it's not because of political correctness, but this is because for the board to be effective, it's got to bring all these different skills. Imagine if a board had only accountants. All they would be discussing would be, those figures haven't balanced, the balance sheet, your projections are not right, the budget is not right.
You can't expect men to lead the charge in trying to interest women as clients to take on these, services or.
Indeed, it is with this background that the trustees of the League of East African Directors thought it prudent to establish a vehicle that could be the vehicle through which they drive and influence the corporate space, especially the emerging realities, including gender diversity.
LEAD will be able to provide training for future directors, and I think that will be very important. But importantly also, LEAD will be able to provide a forum where we can be able to exchange ideas and we can be able to meet people. And through these meetings and discussions, you can be able to identify people with potential to be good directors on the board.
Over the years that I've worked with women, I find a knowledgeable woman is an empowered woman. So the first thing I would do is give them as much knowledge.
The other approach is really to consciously develop women into leadership positions, starting right from the executive, the senior manager, the executive, so that you have a pipeline.
Strathmore Business School does some great programs for women in business to empower them, leadership. So this is what the women need. And then the sky is the limit.
For example, Strathmore Business School has leadership programs for women, and a specific one which is directed to encourage women to come into the board. Then in addition to that, the other courses which are available, for example, the Effective Director, which is an introductory course for directors.
Now boards, women are beginning to sit on boards, but it's true, they can't find us. The companies call me every day and say, I want a woman of this description doing this. Can you find me one? And so I start looking, but I think we need a database. We need to have a database of these women so that they can just go to the website and find which one is suitable for them.
Companies themselves should take on the responsibility of saying, in our board, we will aim to have a certain percentage as women, a certain percentage as young people.
We felt compelled to make our contribution by identifying potential directors, creating a database of such individuals, developing those that needed development, making those resources available to the market, assisting with board trainings and development, etc. Our ultimate goal is to see diversity on boards and that East African businesses were well led, and our mission is to equip corporate boards for the advancement of East African businesses.
Women are the biggest consumers. They are the buyers of the products that most companies produce. And from the homestead, they buy on behalf of the family. So it's critical that these people be involved.
The breast barrier is the mindset. And if we debate women on boards, women in senior positions, it is also important the men are involved, because sometimes it is we, the men, that are the problem.
But if we talk about it, and then the decision makers are not involved, it won't happen.
So it opens up a whole world of opportunity for the women that have those qualifications, the women that are out there being very quiet, nobody knows they exist, to come out. Come out and say, I am here. Position yourself, brand yourself.